I don't make the work to just be static. I'm excited that the work has a potential possibility or imaginary possibility or an imaginary devotional component to it or ceremonial component. I think ceremony and ritual it goes hand in hand with storytelling, both of those things. And I feel like it's in our human DNA. In a lot of ways, it's triggered by the street memorials, the works that I was looking at from my neighborhood, how somebody would use a nondescript space and use it as a space to gather and to mourn and to celebrate. This idea that people from all walks of life would come together and acknowledge a moment that isn't connected to a particular denomination, not a church, not a holy ground. It's just a regular sidewalk that becomes a space of connecting. And I was thinking, well, how do I bring that moment, that experience that's very much in the public space into a kind of more intimate space with Grand Invisible? And so it was really about trying to recreate some elements of that, sort of literally bringing the prayer candles, bringing the prayer beads, those instruments of devotion into it, but also trying to think about the body's relationship to that space and figuring out how to bring our bodies, the witnessing part to it, through evidence of the body. In a lot of cultures, copper has a medicinal component to it. And I also like that within the field of electricity, it's talked about in terms of grounding. And if you talk about copper grounding in regard to community, it's about coming together and a kind of mutual acknowledgement. And so I like the play of grounding and its dialogue with both safety, but also a kind of acknowledgement of community. When I come across something, there's a story that I see, and what guides that story more and more, I realize, is not just the object, but its context, where it's being experienced, the dialogue with that site, that space. And I feel like the viewer is bringing all of those things. It's bringing the viewer, they're bringing their imagination, they're bringing that element of chance. I want to bring them to a space of possibility. And I think that's the goal in all of this, the engagement, material engagement with space. It's all about bringing them to that space of possibilities. The Congolese Cosmogram I first saw in a church in Savannah, Georgia. It was a church built by enslaved people, and it was actually used as a ventilation system. It was actually a Congolese symbol that talked about regeneration. It was a symbol of death and rebirth. And so I was really intrigued with both the overlay of the Christianity and African symbolism, but that it was actually an African symbol hiding in plain sight. Grand Invisible, and even the title, is talk about a kind of space of invisibility. This notion of things being indicated but not physically there. And I think in a lot of the work, it's really about this sense of presence, this sense of slight evidence, and then the viewer has to fill it in. What was really exciting to see the bodies engage with Grand Invisible was this idea of grounding, that we were witnessing these dancers participating in relationship to the work. They're in their own sonic space, which is kind of interesting. They had their sounds, their music or their rhythm that only they could hear. So what was even more interesting was it created this sort of silence of devotion that we really, as a viewer, were paying even more attention to their movements and to their presence. And I think that idea of presence and invisibility, for me, was really exciting in that they were conjuring that sense of presence. I wanted the person, the performer, the dancer, to bring their expertise, their discipline in movement and discipline with the body as another materiality. I kind of compare this to the challenge of being a kind of found object artist, where you're never sure what you're going to find in the street and what story it's going to take you, what journey this story is going to take you on. And it's exciting and exhilarating. It's allowing for chance, the presence of the dancer, the presence of the performer, and the collaboration is just another opportunity for chance, which is always about growth.